Thank you for listening to this episode of the Following Films podcast, a movie podcast that takes you on a weekly journey into the world of cinema and into the minds of the talented individuals who shape it. I'm your host, Chris Maynard, and today we're joined by Marc Bernardin to discuss his directorial debut, the short film Splinter. Marc is a journalist, public speaker, TV and comic book writer, podcaster, and now filmmaker. He has served as film editor for the Los Angeles Times and senior editor for The Hollywood Reporter and Entertainment Weekly. He's written for GQ, Wired, Details, Vulture, Playboy, and Empire. He's been a staff writer for Castle Rock, Treadstone, and Carnival Row, and is the supervising producer on Star Trek Picard. But today, we're going to talk about his short film Splinter. Splinter is focused on Benjamin, a boy who spent most of his 10 years on an airplane that almost never lands, because when his feet touch the ground, rage spreads like a virus. But when the midair collision forces the plane to land, it falls to his caretaker and her associate to deal with the explosive fallout. But before we dive into our conversation with Marc, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Bookman's. Bookman's is your go-to independent bookstore, where you can find an extensive selection of books, movies, music, and so much more. They truly believe in the power of storytelling and in the magic of the cinematic arts. So if you're looking to expand your film, music, or movie collection, be sure to visit your nearest Bookman's. There's always something truly wonderful to discover. Have you followed the Following Films podcast on Spotify? If you have, well, thank you. If you hadn't, head on over to Spotify, search for Following Films, and give us a follow. It really does help the show. So now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Marc. Splinter just screened at this year's Holly Shorts Festival and will be playing genre festivals throughout the rest of the year. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. To be like, get the mic going. All right, we did it.
Well, that's getting the kids to bed. I know that you're just out of that. So everything okay tonight, man?
It is still a whole thing, but yeah, thank you for being patient.
Dude, no worries. If there's one thing I understand, it is absolutely that. That was the I've gotten into the habit of, we went on a vacation with my 7-year-old and we started meditating at night. My son has he's on the spectrum, and so it's something that we started as a calming thing for him a while ago, and now it's become this habit of every night. And I try to take any shortcuts with this kid in his routine, and it will never happen ever.
Well, my daughter is also on the spectrum, but she's 20. And I wish she was in a place where we can meditate with her at all. Instead, we are reading the same children's books we've read her since she was 4 that she knows by heart, but she just likes. Course. So yeah, she was the one that I was like, all right, shower, go to bed. And it's every night at like 9:30, the train begins, and it always gets to the station by like 9:50.
that train will always make it to the station on time. There's nothing you can do to derail a bitch, man.
No, not even close. Not even close.
Well, sorry. Just thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man. I really appreciate it. I got to tell you right out of it's going to sound like a strange question, but did you control the password for the Vimeo link, for the screener link? Was that something you designed, or is that something that the publicist put on there?
Yeah, no, that's all me.
Okay. I was hoping so, because that was something, when I saw the password, I thought, oh, well, this is either a publicist who decided to put this on here and it's just a comment about it, or Marc is just saying, okay, I'm going to go ahead and plant my flag. And I'm going to throw it out there for you right now and see what you think about this. And I thought that was a bold move to do that. And you actually lived up to it. So congratulations on that, man.
Thank you. It was very much the short began as a Twilight Zone episode. Like literally, I do this podcast with Kevin Smith called Fat Man Beyond. And we were in Vancouver doing a live show, and we're driving around Vancouver. He might have been looking for weed. I can't remember. Those were the days. And he was like, hey, I got this call from Monkey Paw. They asked me if I wanted to write and direct a Twilight Zone episode, one of the new Jordan Peele ones. And so Kevin's like, well, do you want to do a Twilight Zone? And I said, yes, Kevin, I would like to do a Twilight Zone. He's like, what are we going to do? I was like, I don't know, but we'll think of something. And so on the flight home from Vancouver, I think he was up there directing like Supergirl or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm on my way back to LA from Vancouver. And I'm like, well, what do they always have in Twilight Zones? They have a creepy kid and they have a plane episode. So why don't we do a creepy kid on a plane episode? And so I like on the plane, like jotted down like a paragraph of it and like emailed it to Kev from the plane. He's like, that's dope. Let's do that one. And in the like the interim, however long it was, it might have been a couple of months. Kevin got pushed from season 2 to season 3, and then there was no season 3.
Okay.
And so then there was just this kernel of an idea that had been kind of laying around the hard drive for a couple of years. And then when I made that decision, when I crossed that Rubicon of wanting to make a short film before I turned 50, that was the promise I made for myself. I'm going to do this before I turn, because I see like these 22-year-old kids just out there, we're making a movie. We're going to go and do the thing. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. Go and do the thing. Go make art. But also, I want to make art. Like, I got this job. I know these people. Like, I've been in the world for a little bit. Like, let's give it a go. And once I kind of promised myself and held myself to that promise, this was the thing I wanted to do. And very, very stupidly, this was the thing I wanted to
do. There's a lot going on in this for the first at bat, man. This is something that you rely on muscle memory for a lot of the things you do, and you're not. How do you handle this? You're dealing with special effects. You're dealing with multiple locations. You're dealing with. I don't want to give away the film, because, like any Twilight Zone episode, it's something that is. There's the twist, but this is something that I think holds up on multiple viewings. So I don't think that you can know the twist and it survives that, because I've watched it 3 times now. And I think that man, how do I put this without ruining anything? Just the idea of taking on something this complex. This is not a straightforward 2 people in a room talking. It has that, but you also have action sequences here, and your punches land, which is something that is not easy to do. You don't end up in a Godfather situation where the punch is, a foot and a half away. You end up with something where I actually felt the weight of injury in this, which is something that is pretty impressive, man.
It's to your point, like there's certain things that you kind of know a little bit how to do, and I come to this as a writer. Yeah. So my first job and my highest responsibility is to the script, not the letter of the script, but the intention of the script, like the emotional reality of the script. But when I was talking to department heads and collaborators, I told them from the beginning, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never lit a set. I've never rigged for sound. I've never done makeup. I've never done hair. I've never designed a costume. I've never put together a production. I don't know how to do what you do. So I'm not going to presume to tell you how to do what you do. I'll tell you if it runs against what I think it's about, if it collides with the intent of the piece, or if it wanders from the character story that we want to tell. And the actors, almost all of them, were friends. So I could also say, hey, listen, can you please be gentle with me? Like, if I'm not giving you enough, tell me I'm not giving you enough. Tell me you need more. Tell me if you want to go again. If I think I've got it, you think you have a little bit more in the tank, we'll do it again. It's only video. Who cares? And so I think that level of candor, like when our stunt coordinator showed up on the day, I was like, hey, man, you're set. He's like, yeah? I was like, yeah, you're designing this fight. I'm going to tell you what kind of needs to happen. But when it's your people out there almost punching each other in the face, that's your set. That's your responsibility. You say action, you say cut. Like, you tell me how we can sell these punches the best. You tell me how we can achieve the level of kind of chaos that I think we're looking for without anybody getting hurt. So while it's your set, it's your set. And, and I think that's the weirdest thing about artists and collaboration and empowering people to do the thing that they do best is they actually want you to look better. Like, they want it to be good.
Yeah.
Because they're able to give all of it to it. Like, hey, he's going to let us do what? I can put the lights where I want? All right, we're going to light the hell out of this. Just you wait.
If you give people the room to do their jobs and do it well, they're going to shine for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's hire the right people and then let them do what you hire them for. And it only goes wrong if you hire the wrong people. And so every meeting is a gut check. Every meeting is can we get along? Can we, for like 12 hours a day in a very intense scenario, not break, not want to shiv each other in the spine? Like, I feel like after this hour-long Zoom meeting, maybe we
Okay, you touched on it, the casting here a little bit. Who in God's name, I believe her name, is it Yetide? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Who is she? She's phenomenal. I was looking her up, and I haven't watched American Gods. I loved the book too much to even touch the series, so I was nervous about it. I've been, beaten up too many times, I think, but after seeing this, do I need to go to check this thing out? Because she's phenomenal here, man.
She's amazing in American Gods. She's amazing even when the show isn't. And the first season is good. The first season is strong. Like, I think if you like the book, you'll like the first season.
Okay.
It takes wild swings, and half of them connect. And if half of those wild swings work, then you have something that feels interesting and new and different. And even the ones that don't connect, they were just wild enough that you'd be like, oh, all right, I see why they tried that. Not entirely successful, but I applaud the effort. She was great in a small arc on This Is Us,
okay.
Playing I think it was like a Philadelphia rec center administrator, something like that. But every time I'd seen her, every little thing I'd seen her in, there was always just this little thing like, oh, would you look at her? Oh, God, damn. Okay. And then I happened to meet her purely socially. Like, a friend was in town and was having a dinner, and she invited both of us separately. And then I discovered she's a massive nerd, like a deep, like to the core nerd. Like, we'll go pound for pound with anybody on Dune. We'll dig deep into Foundation. Like, she's like classic old school sci-fi nerd. And she was the first person that I was not related to that I showed this to. And she called me like a half an hour after I emailed it to her. She's like, "This is great." I was like, "I was hoping you could say that. Would you let me play more again?" She said, "I was hoping you would say that." Yes, I would.
and damn, man, she's so good. It's so that's the thing when I go back. Everybody's good in this. I mean, it's every 2 seconds in this little short, I'm seeing an old familiar friend in this thing. But it's like, it is just, I think you called in every favor you have, because oh, wait, was Absolutely. That just, oh, they're already gone. And it's literally.
Was that Nicole Brown in this for a scene? Like, yes, she was.
And she has this remarkable thing that she can do in 2 seconds, where you recognize her and then completely forget that it's her in a moment, because she's so damn charming that you just let go and you're like, oh, look at that, wonderful, we get a little treat, and then you're just buy in completely. That quickly. She
was like, what's my character in the scene? I was like, your character is warmth, just play warmth. I was like, okay, I got this.
And she does it, and it's just, but you also have again, not to give it away, the moral dilemma at this, which is something that when watching this with my wife had a much different read than I did, which she's much smarter than I am, where I took this literally. And most of the time I just take things as they are for the most part. She watched this and she said, oh, no. When you get to the airport sequence, she's like, oh no, this is just status quo. There's nothing here. There's nothing strange afoot. This is just how the world is now. So I was like, I appreciated that, but I tend to think that, that the film isn't leading us in that direction.
It works both ways. I will say, to your point, Chris, it was not designed to be a commentary on modern civility or lack thereof, but if it plays that way, great.
It holds up. Like, I couldn't argue with her too much about it, that it did feel very real in that way. But so then how have the reactions been to this? Because there's a weirdly long tradition of people who are journalists becoming filmmakers, and often successfully. I think there's some have given it a bad name, but some of my favorite filmmakers started out as journalists. How has this been for you to be on the other side of that sort of commentary?
It's funny, like the last like 8 years of my life have been on the other side of that. I was a journalist for a long time, for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And then made the jump to being a TV writer, like professional TV writer. So I've been doing that for the last like 7 years or so. And so I got it first then, whereas they're like, oh, so Mr. Fancy Pants has been writing about this stuff and now decides he wants to write this stuff. Let's see how this goes. And whatever, like I greet it with the same sort of equanimity as one would greet anything, which is that's 100% your opinion, and you can decide for yourself if it's any good or not. All I will say is they keep paying me to do it, so somebody thinks it's okay. If it was not passing muster, then this would no longer be a career, and I'd go back to being journalist, which was never the worst thing in the world anyway.
No,
it is different though, being the focal point, I guess.
That's what I was going to say. You're in a writer's room. There's a little bit of anonymity in that it's not solely your name on that. I mean, people that know you know that you're in the writer's room, but the average person that's watching Castle Rock probably doesn't know the names of the people who wrote that show.
No, they have no idea. However, they will still blame me for everything. Oh, how come that happened? Oh, Mark was on it. No wonder. It's like, sure.
I'm sorry, I dug that season, man. So I'll give you credit. So I enjoyed it. So.
I'll take it however I can get it. But yeah, this is a little bit different in that, it is. I'm never going to say it's all mine, but I do bear more responsibility for this than anything else I've done, and it's been a kind of wonderful experience in a way that I hadn't expected it to be. Some of it is because when we kickstarted this short, which is, if you've seen it, we spent some money. We spent more money than I had on it, because I'd also said, well, listen, if it costs between A and B, I can cover that. Like I've got some money saved. I can pick up a little like freelance. I'll write an episode of an animated show. Hint, hint, Kevin, I want to write an episode of Masters of the Universe. Okay, great. I'll put that in the kitty and then we'll make a short film. And then when my line producer looked at it, she said, buddy, it is going to be more than that. It's going to be like 3 times more than that. And that's the cheapest way we can get away with it. We need to raise some money. And I was completely convinced for the entirety of the month before we were prepping the Kickstarter launch that, like, all right, listen, I'm going to have to dub like 3 or 4 friends and just like give them money to donate to the cause to pull this corpse over the finish line at day 30, because we have to make the short, but we're never going to get the money. So I'm going to end up having to kick it in, and you can't do that as a Kickstarter,
right?
Whatever you want to call it, progenitor. So it's like, hey, you 3 guys, I'm gonna give you each like 20 grand. Please just drop it in the bucket. And Kevin Smith, of all people, was like, I don't think you understand how big of an audience there is who like the podcast, who've liked your journalism, who've liked your comic book work, who've sort of over the years kind of hopped on a train that didn't charge them any price of admission to get on said train. And now is the first time they can actually pay you back for that. I don't think you know how many people those are. It was like, you're right. I don't believe they're there. And then we crossed our first goal in the first 12 hours.
My God, man.
And so I'm like weeping at my desktop, like in a writer's room on some show I can't even remember, just crying like a baby. They're like, why is your camera off? I need to know. It's a day for me.
And so then when do you cross the finish line then? You're expecting to have to throw this in. How long did it take to achieve the final goal for everything?
I mean, we got our nut, like I said, in 12 hours. We went. I mean, you don't like stop a Kickstarter campaign.
Oh, okay. You don't.
It just kind of runs out, like it'll run its course.
Right.
And by the time we hit the finish line, we got three times what we were initially asking for.
Damn. Today's episode of the Following Films podcast is brought to you by Bookmans. Do you have books, movies, or music gathering dust on your shelves? Give them a new life at Bookman's. They gladly accept trade-ins and buy used media. Clear up some space for new artistic journeys, while knowing that your books, movies, and music will find a loving home. On my latest trip to Bookman's, I found a copy of the 1946 film, Beauty and the Beast. This film is an absolute classic and a cinematic treasure that has stood the test of time, captivating audiences for generations now. This film is extraordinary. It weaves a spellbinding tale that touches the heart and ignites your imagination. From the very first frame, the exquisite artistry and attention to detail transport you to a mesmerizing realm of fantasy and wonder. Cocteau's visionary direction infuses each scene with poetic elegance, and it allows the story to unfold in a visually stunning and emotionally resonant manner. One cannot help but be captivated by the production design and breathtaking cinematography. The opulent castle, with its haunting corridors and magical rooms, becomes a character in itself. And this isn't like when people say New York is a character in the film. This is a literal character in the film. The ethereal lighting and intricate set pieces create a visual feast that immerses the audience in a realm of enchantment. What truly sets this rendition of Beauty and the Beast apart is its ability to delve beyond the surface and explore the complexities of human nature. The film delves into themes of love, sacrifice, and the transformative power of acceptance. It reminds us that true beauty lies within, and that appearances can be deceiving. The allegorical elements presented throughout the story add depth and thought-provoking layers, making it a timeless tale with universal resonance. Beauty and the Beast, it's nothing short of a triumph when it comes to storytelling and craftsmanship. A true cinematic gem that continues to captivate audiences even after decades. There's very few things you can see that were made 80 plus years ago, or almost 80 years now, I guess, if I'm doing my math correctly, that still hold up. That stands as a testament to the power and imagination and the enduring appeal of a tale as old as time. If you seek a film that transports you to a world of magic, look no further than this timeless masterpiece. I cannot recommend the film highly enough, and recommend that you go to your local Bookman's to unearth your new favorite film. Remember, Bookman's has your cool covered. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Which ultimately meant we could pay everybody.
Yeah.
We can pay them. I'm not going to say what they were worth, because they're worth a lot, but we paid them a fair wage. We were able to shoot an extra day on our sound stages, which I didn't think we'd be able to do. We were able to feed everybody. We were able to, just make it so that it was an actual movie, and people were coming to work and not doing me a favor.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we were shooting in the middle of COVID. And so we had to add, the extra budgetary wad of whatever in, PPE and testing and COVID regulations and all of that stuff. So not a dime went to waste.
Well, I know it's cliche, but you do feel like this is not the typical short that was made on the weekend by a couple of friends. I mean, I love those things. I love seeing emerging artists, but I usually don't see something. I don't see anything like your refueling sequence in this, which when I saw it, it made me jump the first time. And then when I showed it to my wife earlier tonight, she jumped at that moment. And so you don't see something like that in a short film most of the time.
Well, it's funny because the first pass of the script was very much like Air Force One. We're going to cut outside of the plane and see the two things in midair and a giant explosive wad of flame and fury. And then British was like, no, we can't. Sure. If you want to raise $1 million, we can give you that shot. But no. And so then it became, all right, well, then let's just experience it the way the characters would experience it. Let's keep it all inside the cockpit. That way, we don't have to show much of anything. We'll do some old school Star Trek stuff. We'll just bounce the camera and people will rock around. And
it works, though.
The audio department would make their money and then make that and sell that. And one 5-second VFX shot of a cockpit monitor.
But it works. The sound sells it, and it absolutely works. Your sound mix here, is clearly great. I think you did a great job with this. You paid attention to that, which is one of those things in a lot of times in short films and first-time filmmakers, they don't pay attention to that. And I think that because you've been around this stuff for so long, you knew where to focus the funds and where to the things that will actually elevate the material. Because despite the fact that you had a decent budget for this and you went 3 times over what you're planning on getting, I do feel like you're punching above your weight class with this.
Yeah, we did, again, to your point, we called in every favor we had, and the folks of the Formosa group kind of came through, and like those guys are cutting Star Wars movies. Those guys are doing sound design on Star Trek films. They're doing $200 million movies. And they're like, yeah, this seems cool. Like, we can do this in a couple of days. We're in between some gigs. If it's not going to take a lot of time, let's just bang it out. And so getting to sit in like a giant mixing stage with, like I felt like Jay-Z. There's just nothing but knobs and buttons and levers and stuff. And I'm like, oh, what should this plane crash sound like? And I'm like, well, I want to hear like having metal. Like I want to hear like just, and if there's like a sperm whale sound you could toss in there, because I'm like, I remember listening to how they did the Ed 209 and RoboCop, and half of those sounds are like tiger and shark and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, give me animal sounds.
But it all works, man. It works so damn well. And it's just, I'm glad that this is happening for you right now at this moment that you got in before you were 50, because I'm 47. And so I think I've had that similar itch where I've been doing this for a long time now. And I have that thing. Why haven't I gone back out after college and made my thing yet? And I need to do it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be on this scale. It doesn't have to be something that becomes anything. I just want to have a thing that I've made other than talking about things.
For sure. I mean, do the thing. It's so rewarding at the end of the day. Like, it's never going to come out the way you think it's going to come out. Like, I can still see the walls that are made of plywood on that plane that, like, if you catch it just right, you see how it like shimmies a little bit when she closes the door. Like I can still see the things that didn't, the shots we didn't get, the cuts that are a little weird, like all of those things I can still see. It's not perfect, but it's a thing that we made because we kind of believed it, and it's a thing that we made, and that doesn't change based on scale. Like if it is 2 people in a hotel room, if it is 3 guys at a bar, if it is whatever it is, hey, ladies, gentlemen, others, betweens, we made this thing.
Yeah.
We gave it, 3 or 4 days, like on the money, and then we gave it 2 or 3 months, and then we gave it a full year, and like we did it, and we'll always have done it. And I get this question quite a bit from like young writers, young filmmakers who like, what should I do? Should I go to film school? Should I do this? Should I do whatever? I'm like, hey, listen, I'm never going to tell somebody not to go to school. Like, if education is what you want, go get it. But if what you want to do is make movies, make movies. Yeah. Like, it's cheaper than it's ever been before. It's more accessible than it's ever been before. You can shoot and edit and distribute from your pocket if you wanted to. Like,
you can literally tangerine. I mean, yeah, you can.
Yeah,
you can do it.
Yeah, go do the thing. Like, even if it's tiny and feels insignificant, or whatever, just. You've done it. Then go make another one. Then go make another one.
I don't think I have space opera in me, so I think my my ambitions would be pretty small.
Hey man, Dark Star, I'm pretty sure you could rig out a bathroom to feel like a tiny cockpit.
Okay, so I'm not. I had to double check, and this, I know we're running on time here, but I was inspired to watch Escape from New York after watching your film, because there was something that struck me about that cabin that reminded me of the president's plane, and I could not figure it out. And I'm like, is there something here that like, and no, there was nothing there. But what ended up happening, there's something that I saw that movie when I was so young that that's the first time I saw a version of Air Force One. And it was like somebody living in this plane, this idea of like these rooms and all this. And it's the first time I've had that feeling since I was a kid that like, oh, this is a plane. Like, yeah, you can have a plane like this. And I had that same reaction. So, and I doubt there was any thought of connection there at all, but it was definitely something that happened to me.
I mean, I wish I could say there was, other than my abiding love for John Carpenter's work. I think my first real like Air Force One that I clocked as a thing that's cool was probably on The West Wing. Because you spent quite a bit of time on Air Force One, and they had to clearly build a set to be Air Force One. I'm like, oh, well, it should maybe feel like this a little bit and like that a little bit. And then Air Force One, the movie. But I do still have that deep love for Escape from New York, and to be mentioned in any way in the same breath with that movie, that will be my gift of the evening.
Well, it was one of those things I thought, and I'm sure you've had this moment when you've interviewed people where like, there's that thing that's just this itch in the back of my brain. I'm going to throw it out there just in case it's not just me. And probably 9 times out of 10, it's not. But then occasionally you throw out that weird thing and you're the only one that saw it. So who knows?
It's 100% worth it all the time because, having interviewed enough filmmakers specifically, when I was a journalist, I always hated talking to actors.
I'm not good at it. It's me. I suck at it.
I was like, listen, I'm sure you're lovely people. I don't want to be the 19th person this night tossing you this question that you have to find a way to answer. But I would always talk to writers and directors. And if you can come up with the thing that because I remember talking about Rogue One. And I think I had mentioned it either on a podcast or whatever. And I was talking about how the opening of that felt a lot like Inglourious Bastards to me. And Gary Whitta hopped on Twitter and DM'd me. He was like, it's exactly Inglourious Bastards. That's what we were doing. Nobody's mentioned that yet. I was like, see, this is why. Because we're all nerds.
It is that thing that happens when you're interviewing people, when you have that connection. You're like, all right, I could fuck up the whole interview right now, but I'm going to throw something out there. And when somebody says I've never been asked that before, it feels nice. So that's my favorite. It's why I keep doing this, honestly. Yeah. So
the best version that I had, and I do not mean to name drop, it was the craziest conversation, but I was interviewing Christopher Nolan for this Hollywood Reporter thing on The Dark Knight Rises. And the publicist tells me, okay, you got half an hour. He's in New York. He's having tea at the Hudson Hotel. You meet him in the cafe, in the tea room, and you'll just talk to him for half an hour, and then I'll come and get you when we're done. And so I sit there for half an hour, and I'm just kind of asking him everything I can think to ask him. Because when the fuck else am I going to get to sit opposite Christopher Nolan and start peppering him with questions?
Yeah,
of course I'm going to do this. And I think I hit him with this question of Gotham City is different in every movie, not just from the geography of where you shoot it, because you've shot it in different places every time, but also the character of the city. Is it, in your mind, an evolving creature that continues to change as time goes on? And he was like, I don't know the story you're writing, but that was a good question. And then the publicist comes over, and you could tell the signal they worked out between them was, if Chris is done, he's going to say, I don't think I'm going to have any more tea. And then we leave. But if he's not done, he's going to order another cup of tea. And so publicist came over. He was like, I'm going to have the waitress bring me another hot water tea kettle.
Oh, dude. That's phenomenal. That's damn good, man.
And then I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to do anybody ever again. It's never going to get better than this. I'm out.
There's those moments where you just pinch yourself and you say, I can't believe this is actually happening right now. And it's kind of, you go into another body experience. I've had a couple of those, and it's been one of them. I forgot to hit record at the beginning of the call, and I had this bizarre, wonderful, it wasn't like this. It was something that just popped up where Peter Shasitsky, who was a DP, for for Cronenberg, he shot Empire Strikes Back, and it was just one of those random things when I was first starting doing this. And I threw out an email, and he responded and said, "Yeah, let's jump on a call right now." And jumped on a call, and an hour and a half later, I'm hanging up, going, "Oh fuck, I didn't record that." And I didn't have it in me to say, hey, can we do that again? I'm not that brazen. But then I just wasted an hour and a half of your day. So that was one of the lower points. So
one of the lower points. And yet still, you got to talk to a dude for an hour and a half.
Pretty great. Pretty amazing. But sorry, that's as close as I can get to a Christopher Nolan-esque. But my version of it is I drop the ball completely. That's just how I would do it in that moment. But Mark, I can't tell you how much this means to me for you to take time out of your night to do this. I do appreciate it, man.
No, this is so much fun. Thank you for reaching out. I'm glad that they could set this up and bring us together in the wee hours of the Los Angeles night.
Well, I'm on Pacific time also. I'm in Arizona, so it's not that late for me. So 10:30, that's kind of perfect time for me, honestly.
It's funny. I have a comic book collaborator who I work with who lives in Jakarta. And so every now and again when we have to get on a Zoom, it's like, all right, so if we do 9 a.m. my time, it's 2 a.m. the day after your time. Does that work for you? And she's like, actually it does, because I'm a vampire, so I'm up between 11 p.m. and I work until 6 a.m. and then Jakarta wakes up and it's loud anyways. Let's do it. I'm like, whatever you say.
So, okay, last thing, and then I'll let you get back to your night. But there's going to be another movie, a feature, another short, something like that down the pike, because I'm a greedy consumer and I want more. I don't want it to be another 50 years that you're rounding it out at 98, saying gotta get in the next one before 100.
I know, right? It's if you had asked me at any time during the writing, the casting, the pre-production, even the shooting, if there was any more to this, my answer was always no. Like, it is what it's designed to be. Like, it's a short story. It's a pop single. It doesn't need to be more. It's not a symphony. It's not begging for like orchestral maneuvers in the dark at all. It's just, this is kind of what it is. But then it was like on the stage and my production designer, Ariel Vita, asking me like, hey, so I don't know if you've thought about this, but is there a cargo hold on this plane? I was like, yeah, of course there is. She was like, well, what's in it? She's like, oh, well, I guess there would be the artifacts of the other kids who've been on this plane. And I was like, well, damn it. Now I know what the fucking story is.
Fuck, this is literally the conversation that me and my wife had, was that can the body ever go back to Earth again? If this ends, is this because of life that this exists, or does this end if the body is still touching the ground? I'm not going to spoil anything. No, I'm cutting that out. This is gone. We're done. But this is between you and me.
Just me.
Time enough to figure you out. Time enough to write this down. Wish me luck, give me hope. So what witchcraft.